Hello, hello, and welcome to another new moon reading. I apologize that this is a little bit delayed. Last week was very, very busy and full and wonderful. It was the first full and official Taste of Wellness Festival in Kenton and Bushmans in the Eastern Cape in South Africa. So, for those of you who live in South Africa, it's going to hopefully become an event that people travel to. We did have people traveling to it this year, but I'm hoping that it will grow from strength to strength and that you will be able to reap the benefits of the amazing collective of therapists and just wisdom keepers that were at that festival. There are talks, there are workshops of all sorts, and it's all around wellness and healthy lifestyles, and just it was wonderful. So I was very happy to be a part of that festival last week and to collaborate with people who I have a lot of respect for. Anyway, this is why this new moon forecast is a little bit delayed, so I apologize for that. And we are looking at the Cancer new moon, which is really, really, for me, powerful and juicy with a lot of potential this year, should we choose to accept it, which is always the case. The astrology gives you this forecast, this weather report, and says these are the areas where you can really tap into to kind of manifest and enhance in this area of your life. Should you choose to, but that doesn't mean that life isn't carrying on anyway. So if there are things in your life that don't relate thematically to what we're speaking around this Cancer new moon, then that doesn't really matter. You obviously have to live your life, and decisions may be made around things that feel quite different to the forecast. So just starting to learn to trust the rhythms. I have found, having followed this for many, many years now, many moons, that you get to see that the rhythms kind of do sink in because every archetype leads on from the one before it. And there is a corrective quality to the archetype that you're in to temper where we got to with the previous archetype. So as an example, we've just come out of the Gemini cycle, and Gemini is busy and intellectual and talks with their hands and all over the place like a butterfly, flitting all over, lots of different things on the go, almost a little bit breathless because it's busy, 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 social connections, etc. And then we get a little tired, we get a little run down, we get a little talked out, even if you're a Gemini like I am. And it's almost like you just need to wrap yourself in a nice tight hug. And Cancer is the archetype of the mother. And so I almost feel like if you think of Gemini as the preschooler, and there's so much going on at that stage of life, and it's so busy and it's so much fun, and little children don't know when enough is enough, to be fair. Most of us adults need some help with that at the best of times as well. But let's just keep it with the sort of more the metaphorical child has been so busy and doing so many things and had a play date and ate too much of this and just all too much. And then the mother reads the signs and says, okay, I'm going to need to rein this in. I'm going to need to put up a little boundary for this one. I'm going to need to take them home. I'll give them a 10-minute warning. I'll take them home. We'll put on some calming music while I put them through a bath and I put them down for a nap or whatever the case may be. These are the ways that the mothering energy will tend to see things before there are problems. So hopefully before that overstimulated child has a tantrum, before that overstimulated child doesn't know how to bring themselves back, the good mother archetype, and let's be honest, there's a good mother and there's a dark mother archetype, but the good mother will see things coming and she will mitigate. Some of the time by putting up boundaries. No, you've had enough sweets. We don't need to give you more sugar. The child might, throw a tantrum, a frothy about not being able to have yet another cupcake. But the mother knows that sometimes boundaries need to be firm, and this is actually what makes for a happier, healthier person. So very, very much the energy of mothering and family. So this is not really about I'm speaking of the mother, and a mother is traditionally obviously a feminine role. And the moon is the planet that rules the sign of Cancer. So she's in her home space. Okay, so obviously it does have a more yin or feminine quality to it for sure. But it doesn't matter if you're a man or if you are not a mother of a human. If you are a pet mother, or if you tend to mother your friends, your peer group, or you mother your projects, it doesn't really matter. Whatever the situation, there is a mothering internal part in you, and that's really the part, the invitation for this new moon, but it actually goes beyond the new moon. But the invitation of this new moon is to really get real with the mothering part in you. Where is it out of balance? Where is it out of whack? Where do you need to be firmer, the firm mother? Where do you need to be the soft, squishy, cuddly mom? And probably there is a combination of different mothering tools that you need to tap into to help manage the parts of you that need mothering and nurturing and holding, and that family dynamic, right? The familial. So there's a case of breaking out of some of the old patterns of mothering, and this often not to judge the mother, or the parents, or the ancestral lineage that got you to be this person, but oftentimes these are the opportunities where we look back and we go, my mother did this, my grandmother did this, her grandmother did this, and her grandmother before her. And I'm not really sure why. I'm not sure why we're all doing this, because it makes me feel uncomfortable. It makes me feel inauthentic. And so, if there are patterns in your family like that that you are ready to break because you've realized that for whatever reason they've been carrying on, they actually, maybe they haven't worked for generations, but you can certainly only assess from yourself, this doesn't work for me. What can I do differently? So, the reason that this is even bigger than this new moon is because it is conjunct Jupiter. You can see here is the new moon, sun and moon at 4 degrees and 7 minutes of Cancer. Those are like crab pincers, the glyph for Cancer, a water sign, and then Jupiter at 3 degrees 32. So Jupiter adding to this is a double whammy. First of all, Jupiter conjunct this new moon is going to make it a bigger deal because Jupiter tends to do things like that. And that's, Jupiter's known to be benevolent and benefic and generous and bring you all the things you want, but also he will make bigger the things that don't work. So it may be ultimately it brings you the thing you want because suddenly there is this glaring obviousness of something that doesn't work, and that's uncomfortable. And then you get to choose, do I change it or don't I? And then down the line, you may look back and say, wow, that Jupiter conjunct that new moon, when I set those intentions, boy, oh boy, that was like a new moon on steroids. And Jupiter really helped me to break some really deep familial patterning. And I'm really grateful, but it was pretty crappy while I was going through it. So it's not always nice feeling, even if it's Jupiter, right? But Jupiter does tend to have more of a brings the blessings kind of vibe. But the other reason that Jupiter conjunct this new moon is important is that Jupiter has just entered Cancer and he spends a year in a sign. So having this new moon not long after he's entered the sign, at the beginning of degree-wise, that archetype, we've got a whole year that whatever intentions you set now are really going to be something that you can work through the year on. I want to remind you that in Chinese astrology, we're in the year of the snake. So there's a lot to do with shedding. So I feel like as we step into this mothering archetype very, very strongly in a very big Jupiterian way, where we get to change our belief systems, we need to shed some of the old patterns. This is very much, there's a lot aligning with this. Another thing that is a little confusing and tricky is down here we have Pluto at 3 degrees 15 of Aquarius. Now, the side, usually you can't see something 150 degrees. The planets can't see somebody 150 degrees from them. So the opposite sign, which is 180 degrees to Pluto right now in Aquarius, is Leo. So that means these guys, the Sun, Moon, and Jupiter at 3 and 4 degrees of Cancer, are quincunx 150 degrees from Pluto. So they can't see Pluto. So they're having this really big direct experience of each other, Sun, Moon, Jupiter. They're having this big direct experience of that. They also have Mercury not yet out of Cancer, so not quite as close, and he's in the last few degrees of the sign. So very much, how are we thinking about these patterns? How are we thinking, feeling? Because water signs are very feely. I actually, in my birth chart, I have Cancer in Mercury, and it's quite hard to extricate your thoughts from your feelings when you have a watery Mercury, because Mercury is our thinking, water is our feeling. So, we're having the last few degrees of Mercury in Cancer, really trying to eke out, can I bring logic to these old familial patterns, to these old mothering paradigms? Can I just sit in the feeling of it? Can I consolidate the two? How do I change this? How do I, when I'm getting too bogged down by emotions, how can I step into my intellect? And when I'm getting too analytical, how can I lean into the feelings? And between those two, find some kind of balance. So he's already coming to the end of his journey there, but he's definitely, archetypally playing into the Cancer conversation at the seed point, this new moon. Remember, we set the intentions at a new moon. And in the meantime, in an invisible position to the Sun, Moon, and Mercury, we have Pluto. So Pluto can't see them either. They're invisible to him too. But it's kind of like that person. Okay, there's a camera now, so I can see behind me if I look. But imagine there wasn't. And there's a person behind you in your blind spot. You can't see them if you just turn like this. You can't see them in front of you. They're there, but you don't know where they are, or you're not sure if they're there, but you have this feeling like, oh, something, it's something. I don't know what it is. Why do I feel like that? I can't quite place it. That's what it is when there's a quincunx. So Pluto is a planet that deals with power struggles, power dynamics. So I want to come back for a moment to the mothering archetype. And I want you to look back into your childhood. Who held the power? Now, when you're an actual child, the parents hold the power. Again, we're speaking more to mother with Cancer, and father would be more Leo or even Capricorn. But we're going to speak to the mother archetype primarily here, but it doesn't matter if you are a father or if it was your father. It still plays in, okay? Because it's your primary caregivers, your nurturers, the people that kept you safe as a child. They held the power. If they were not okay, then you were not okay. So there's this feeling with Pluto quincunx in Aquarius to what were the power dynamics when I was growing up, and when my parents were growing up, and when their parents were growing up, and so on. Go as far back as you can, so that you can see patterns. Remember that astrology is pattern recognition. It's like following all the different various patterns and cycles and connections and links to patterns, okay? So it's actually very mathematical. I'm not mathematical, really, but for some reason I'm pretty good with pattern. Anyway, maybe I'm more mathematical than I think. Let me just be nice to me. Okay, back to the thing at hand is that Pluto in Aquarius is saying, like, where were the power issues that brought you to this person? And maybe you're not mothering yourself well because maybe you don't feed yourself properly. And that's what a good mother does. She feeds you healthy food. Make sure your body is nourished. Make sure you have enough naps, snacks when you're getting hangry. Get some exercise. Those kinds of things. When you're mothering yourself well, you should be doing those kinds of things. So where you find the spaces that you're not, start to look back for patterns. Why is it that I'm so hard on myself for this? Why is it that I get into this power struggle with my children or with my parents or with my boss? Like, where does that come from? Because Pluto is power and the dynamic of transformation. So we honestly have this most amazing opportunity to change this, but you cannot immediately see the Pluto stuff. You have to dig a little. You have to set intentions, and then you have to be a little bit patient and let the things bubble up, because it's not going to be immediately, potentially, it's not going to be immediately recognizable. And that also brings up the shadow stuff, because, you think you're doing something in a certain way, and this is the right way to do it. And then in comes this awareness, and you're just like, oh my goodness, I didn't realize this whole time that that's been the situation. How did I not see it? Because once you see, but until you see, it's a shock when it comes through. We also have Mars at the moment in Virgo, and Mars in Virgo, you want to do things with detail. You want to pay attention a little bit more than usual to the details. And so I think when we're feeling like, okay, I need to mother myself better. Maybe if I shopped ahead for the week, maybe if I did a meal plan for the week, maybe if I scheduled my meetings with a little gap to go to the bathroom and grab a cup of tea, whatever the case is for you, how can I be a little bit more discerning? Because Virgo is also very much an archetype that links to being of service, but also to being to rituals and sacred practices for health and well-being for you, and how then you can be of service. So if you are well fed and if you are well rested, no matter what job you're in, you're going to do better at it. You're going to be better for the people that you interact with. You're going to be better for yourself. So these are the kinds of things that we can, because Mars is our doing planet. He's also finally much relieved to be out of the double whammy of his retrograde signs, which was Cancer, Leo. So he did do a deep unpacking of the maternal and paternal energies. So he went through Cancer and he retrograded there, and he was like, oh, what do I do differently around mothering? We could say, Leo, same thing, around fathering. So again, both he and Venus have had this underpinning of the dynamic of mother father energy in their retrogrades, or him her energies in their retrogrades. And so this is coming to the internal balance. If you watch my card reading, you will see that this is the third week in a row that we got the Chariot card. And the Chariot card is the Cancer card. And the Chariot card always has a charioteer riding on his chariot with a black and a white horse, the yin and the yang, the shadow and the light, day and night, call it what you will. And these horses are not harnessed. It's about the charioteer learning how to steer by keeping that clear mind and open heart. Mercury in Cancer. Clear mind, open heart, balance of my internal mothering and fathering parts, masculine and feminine parts, so that I can just think right and my horses will go right or left or up or down. And this is kind of the potential for this new moon for me. I think it's a very powerful opportunity. And then also in an earth sign during the course of this is Venus. So Venus did her retrogrades through the watery Pisces and fiery Aries. Now she's in the next earth sign, which is Taurus, her own sign. Mars did his retrograde through the watery Cancer, fiery Leo, and now finally he has moved into the subsequent earth sign. Remember that every sign brings balance, a little bit of balance to the one that went before it. So here we've got Mars and Venus, these other two masculine feminine dynamics, grounding us, trying to hold us in this earth. And of course, by sign, if not by degree, I mean, Mars is, you can see he's in a nice sextile to this new moon. So he's a little bit more overtly involved than Venus is. But by sign, they are both sextile. They're earth signs and water signs. And as we have the outer planets all moving into fire and air after many, many years, we have had this kind of like scaffolding that has been quite nurturing in a sense and feminine dynamic, earth and water signs. And it's about to move. Some have already moved. Two of them have already moved into fire and air. And 7th, is it the 7th of July? I can't quite remember, but I think it might be about the 7th of July. Uranus is going to move into Gemini, which is also air. And then there's nothing anchoring us anymore in the way that we were held like a scaffold, the outer planets holding us like this cradle almost in the feminine nurturing signs. And then suddenly it's going to be much more movie, dynamic, go, air, fire, breathe, burn, go, create, think differently. It's going to be a lot faster and a lot louder. And if you think life's been fast now, when that third outer planet gets into air, we're really going to feel it. Okay, Neptune will retrograde back into Pisces for a minute, and we'll be able to like float for a moment and just be a little wobbly and like, oh my gosh, that's a lot. But then Neptune is back in Aries for a good long while. So this new moon is also a really strong invitation to remember how to stay nourished, nurtured, and grounded, because when these planets move, it's already in process. It's going to get bigger, faster, more. The yang dynamic is going to feel very, very overwhelming if you don't know how to look after yourself, if I don't know how to look after myself. And those of us who are practicing this really deep and authentic self-care, which isn't just like giving yourself a facial, It's very holistic. The more of us that are able to do that, the more we can hold space and anchor for people that are struggling to do this for themselves. So it starts out being, I'm going to say the word selfish, but I really want it to be reframed, because I think we have this thing that self-care is selfish. I certainly do. And it takes a hell of a lot for us to reframe it, especially as women, especially as mothers. We're coming back to the mother archetype. Remember, you don't have to be a mother for that to be true. But mothers have been taught for generations, think of the familial patterning, for generations, to put themselves at the bottom of the list, to make sure kids are fine, make sure husbands are fine, make sure the pets are fine, make sure the household is running fine. And then if there's anything left in the tank, which there never is, we're always at a deficit already by then maybe you can take a load off and rest. That's how the paradigm has been. But if that's how we continue, we're all burned out. And me burned out means you burned out. And you burned out means me burned out. And the more of us that can practice this deep space holding for ourselves, nourishing and nurturing and mothering ourselves, the more we can become the scaffolding and the anchor and the holding space for the other people that are struggling with that. And hopefully we can model that so that more and more people will go, actually, self-care is not selfish. It's the only thing I can do to be the best version of me for everybody else. And that puts me in service, even as I serve myself first. Then I can serve everybody else. So I think this is a really, really key component of this new moon. I'm going to work really intentionally with this for myself because it feels very, very powerful. And then the last thing I'll say, because I can feel that I'm going off on many a tangent and it's getting quite long. Sorry, the second last thing. So we said Uranus is going to move into Gemini. That's going to be a lot. And so he's at the very last gasps of the sign, which means Uranus in Taurus is really at its like eking out point, like what have we learned in the last 7 years, while Venus is coming up behind there, but she's trying to calm the waters. She's trying to still the earth a little bit where he's creating earthquakes. She's planting seeds in the cracks and saying new goodness will come from this literal ground shifting. And then we, of course, have spoken so much about Saturn and Neptune moving into Aries. Saturn is now at 1 degree 40, Neptune at 2 degrees 9. They're both going to be moving retrograde relatively soon. I don't have those dates in my head, unfortunately. But this is also squaring, you can see this red square line, squaring the energy of this new moon. So they're both cardinal signs. So you'll feel the part of you that really wants to be this like child, because Aries is the child. Aries is the baby in some ways. Me first, instant gratification, attack when you don't feel safe. Safety being a paramount issue, whilst we're also dealing with the archetype of the mother. So this is another beautiful invitation. Look at your wounded, triggered child part. Ask yourself, where did I not feel safe growing up? Where do I still not feel safe? And then ask yourself again, how do I mother? So that instead of having the Cancer mother taking her pincers, remember Cancer's the archetype of the crab, snapping at her child and trying to take his head off, or I'm saying his because Aries is a fire sign, which is masculine. So you can imagine that mother just not nourished, not filling her own cup, ready to like snap. And then she's got this terribly naughty little child who's acting out because he's feeling unsafe. And she snaps his head off with her pincer and he rams into her belly with his horns. And that is not healthy because they love each other. Your mother part loves your child part. But if your mother part is not nourished, she cannot nourish the child part of you. So, if we talk about working with these different parts of ourselves, this is a really good opportunity to say, what does my inner child need from me? And what do I have capacity for? And if I'm too tired to deal with that tantruming toddler, I mean, for me personally, I have moon in Aries. So I can very clearly see when I am not feeling emotionally safe, my Aries triggery moon child can be really present. And it has a certain way of reacting to life rather than responding that will tell me at this point, I know, oof, I'm not feeling safe. I'm not feeling emotionally seen, heard, held. And then I have the Mercury in Cancer, that will be able to say, all right, so how do I do that? That mother goes, okay, let me think about this. My child is acting out. They're feeling overwhelmed. They need a hug, but they won't ask for it because Aries can be so independent. So how do I give that Aries part of myself a hug? So you may not have strong planets in both of these, or you may have planets in both of these or in one of these. But either way, there is a part of your chart that is Aries and a part of your chart that is Cancer. So I very much recommend, if you know how to look at your chart, go and look at where those parts are. If you know the time of your birth, go look at the houses that that's in and start to work with the mother and child in you. Again, it's not about gender. I know I say this again and again, but I don't want the men sitting there to go, oh, well, it's a mother thing. It's not mine. No, it is yours, because actually, if you're a man, it's easy to ignore the mother part of you, but it needs to be dealt with, because as we shift into this masculine archetype even more strongly that I was referring to just now, we're going to see where the problems are with the masculine. And I feel like this has been a thing of mine for years. How do we nourish the masculine? Because they are displaced right now as the feminine rises. And what patriarchy was here and the women were down here, and now the women are coming up, but the men don't know what to do with that. And we're not supposed to go to the opposite. We don't want to do that. We want to do that and that, and interlace and work together and co-create and collaborate. If you're a woman, with other men, if you're a man, with other women, if you are a man with other men, a woman with other women, a human inside of you, the masculine and the feminine inside of you, this can be taken to whatever level you meet yourself at right now. And you'll drop through the layers as you go. So I'm going to stop this share. Thank you for listening to this forecast. I hope it's been interesting for you. And I really feel like there's magic that can come from this new moon for longer than this new moon. So get intentional, get intentional. Plant the seeds. It's worth it. Do the reflections. Take what time you can. I will have some journal prompts on my Instagram post, which will be out on Wednesday. So you can go and use those prompts. If you find it hard to access those things, these prompts can help guide you to the exact right level that you need to be at. And the thing about journal prompts is, what I might have meant when I wrote that journal prompt and what you took from it could be totally different things, but that's perfect because it's a prompt. It's to prompt you where you're at with your psyche, your life experience, to go where you need to go. So there isn't a right or a wrong way to do a journal prompt. And they are so, 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 so powerful. Journaling is a huge passion of mine. So thank you for watching. Thank you for likes, shares, follows, and subscribes. And if you are looking for extra guidance on the multiple levels that I can help and offer, then get in touch. Thank you so much.